At this stage, it's the H6 mask.
Yeah.
Was he wearing the H6 mask in that shot you were talking about too?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, I guess we'll start with the masks here, and he's wearing it in this shot coming up
Yeah,
too.
right there. And then I think it switches right after that.
And it's something I told you all about earlier. I think they should have just stuck with the H6 mask. I would have been perfectly fine with that.
Still H6 mask there.
It's in a lot of this opening. It's in more than I thought.
I want to say Chris Duran said they used the H6 for the entire opening.
Yeah, it was the first thing shot for the movie. I doubt that they even had the Stan
the other one
ready at that point, or the what's the other one called?
The K&B effect. The K&B effects.
So I'll dive into some mask talk now that we've gotten past that, which we'll clip out for its own video afterwards. But basically, what happened is coming on to H2O, they picked out the masks for 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. They lined them all up, and somehow the one they chose to use was 6 out of that bunch. Which, like, when you have one, to know that 1 and 2 were an option, and you chose not to use them, maybe they just didn't sit well on Chris Durand. I don't know. Obviously, makeup and effects nowadays are far beyond where they were back then.
But you would think they would be able to do a mold to his face at least.
Yeah, you would have thought, but they ended up going with 6, and they shot this sequence. Well, I don't know about the detective sequence, but they shot the mask sequence. The H6 mask sequence is all in the beginning before they got to any of Jamie Lee Curtis's stuff. That is also before Kevin Williamson came on to do his, I think it was a 6-day rewrite. And the director, who I pulled up a comment about earlier, Steve Miner, hated the H6 mask. He was against it. The Weinsteins wanted the H6 mask used. Miner wanted the Winston Mask used, and the Acads wanted the K&B? Is that what you said it's called? So you had all 3 creative parties wanting different things, which is it's the tale of a lot of Halloween productions. Is too many chefs in the kitchen being pulled in so many different directions.
That's just crazy to me when you have 1 and 2 as an option. But like you mentioned, it could have fit him differently, so it kind of gave it a weird look. And then they might have been thinking... Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Dean. I'm sorry.
They might have been thinking like long-term licensing and like likeness rights with Shatner and all that.
Yeah, Shatner in 98 is much, much more in the spotlight than he is nowadays.
Yeah,
and
go ahead, Mike.
I was just saying, I'm also interested to see like what mask was actually lined up. Like, I know they said 1 and 2, but like, was hard for me to believe it was like the original 1 and 2. So like,
no, I doubt they were, because technically the original 1 is the same as 2. It just sat differently on Dick Warlock's face, and obviously had wear and tear from being under Deborah Hill's bed for years. So
all that smoke, had a yellow looking.
I don't like the Winston mask. I know that it's the popular choice for everyone to go to, but for me, one of the biggest things about Michael Myers, and you can word it however you want, the blackest eyes, the darkest eyes, whatever, but like when you can't see Michael's eyes is when, kind of like our graphic here right above Mike's head, Michael's staring down at Mike, and like you can't see his eyes. You're looking into a dark abyss. And the Winston masks are like friggin' George Costanza glasses size eye holes.
Yeah, they're
And
huge.
and I've seen alterations of the Winston mask that look fantastic.
Mhm.
I think
But I
I think I sent something to you, Sean, as well, because obviously the famous shot from this movie is when Michael and Laurie are looking through the door with that glass circle window. My friend Kevin actually took that shot and blackened out the eyes, and it looks
Oh,
amazing. I don't know if I can find it again and send
well,
it to
interestingly
you.
enough, about that shot is this is the back of our steel case here, hard to see with the light reflection. That is not the Stan Winston mask.
right.
That is the K&B mask. And if you look on the back of the original, I think it's the VHS cover, it shows the Winston mask. Sorry, not the
Mhm.
Winston mask, the K&B mask. But in the movie, it's the Winston mask. So they did edit and go back and reshoot some of these scenes again to get the Winston mask in it as much as possible. But I really like the K&B mask the best because it's kind of shapeless, if you will. The problem is there are some shots where it looks really bad.
Yeah, it's all about the lighting, and I mean, you might not think that it has that big of an effect on it, but it's. I've played around with it here with a couple that I have like in a display case, and it's just crazy. You shift the lighting a little bit, and it just the way it changes the look is it's pretty drastic.
Yeah, that video that I was talking about earlier, as far as the one that Sean Clark did with the filming locations, he actually walks the filming locations with Chris Duran, and it's pretty informative because Chris Duran, kind of goes back and talks about what he remembers about filming, and he remembers none of the mask stuff changing. Like he was never approached about any of that stuff, and um, yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of crazy to know that
Yeah,
him being the shape, he just didn't have obviously any input. He just did what he was told to do. But
And then, the thing that everyone points out the most with Halloween H20 when it comes to the masks is the CG mask. And basically, um, Steve Miner, the Acads, the Weinsteins, even Patrick Lussier, who edited the film, were all told CGI is advancing. We can go back, we can redo this, it'll look badass. And by the time they got the finished shot back in their hands, because it was done from an outside company, um, it looked awful. And they
yeah,
were pissed. At that point, I don't know why you just don't edit it out, honestly. Like, just cut
yeah.
that frame entirely.
so let
Yeah,
me ask
I
y'all
don't know
this:
why it's still included.
do y'all have a problem with this being shot outside of Haddonfield? Like, is that one of your knocks on the film?
For me, I would say not if they nail the atmosphere, which I think for the most part they do. Like it still sort of feels like fall, even though it's warm weather and the color grading
Yeah.
maybe is a little brighter than we're kind of used to. But I think if you kind of lock down, like even with the background, the decorations and stuff, if you make it feel like the season, I think it can work.
The box of life says,
In terms of the masks, though, before we move on from that discussion, let us know down in the comment section down below, whether you're watching live or after the fact, which H2O mask do you prefer the most? There's really 4 of them in total. Are you nuts? And do you like the CGI mask the most? Do you wish they used H6 all the way through, which Steve Miner was just not going to allow? The Stan Winston mask or the KMB? Let us know your thoughts down below in the comment section.
Yeah, for me, I think like I said before, I would go H6. I just think it was the better decision. But from the sounds of it, and I have not read the Taken Shape books yet in its entirety, but um, based off what you're saying, that was never going to happen. Like that just was not going to fly. So
Yeah, it's a shame. I would have liked to see the 6 just last through the whole movie, but then you run into the minor problem of continuity with their erasing 4 through 6. Then if you have the 6 mask in this, it kind of might cause some confusion, but I think it's also something so kind of minor that you can put it to the side and kind of forget about it.
Yeah, my friend Kevin did that. I meant to send it to you too,
Wow.
Dean. But yeah, can you imagine if that was the case?
Like that minor, not even minor, but like that just kind of bumps up the quality of what we could have had here. I think you put that in this final product that we have, and you get a lot more fans on board with this movie.
Oh, speaking of Kev, yeah.
He says H6 Mask wouldn't have made sense given the retcon approach. I'm a Winston man through and through, baby. Even with Clay Aiken.
Too bad you don't
This
have your
was
bells.
the 90s. Yo, yeah.
Yeah, but instead of the Roadcaster, you would have gotten bells.
And I think we talked about this earlier in the group message, or at least I did. I brought it up. For me personally, guys, I think this is Jamie Lee's best performance in a Halloween film. I know everybody has their love for the original, and I get it. But something about Jamie Lee Curtis in this film, I don't know. It just it hits on all levels. And we'll talk about it later. There's a shot that's probably one of my favorite shots in all of the Halloween films. But I just think her performance in this movie is top notch and the best that we've gotten from her, including the new ones, of course.
I'll say it picks up in the third act. Like when you finally get that confrontation, she's done running and kicks it into high gear. That's where I would agree with that. I'm gonna actually kind of gauge that now through the rest of this and see kind of how it plays out. Because from what I remember, overall, I kind of have a little trouble kind of getting on board with that throughout the whole rest of the movie, but definitely by Act 3.
Well, I feel like it's definitely a different approach than what she leaned into as far as the new films. Obviously, we know she had say in this film, but she had a lot of say in these new David Gordon Green movies, which I think was a huge problem with them, in my opinion. She had, in the David Gordon Green film, she handles it in a way of she's waiting for Michael, she's here for Michael, and instead of like H2O. In general, she's kind of in fear of Michael until Michael comes after her son, and then she goes into kind of, all right, let's do this, and that's when she grabs the axe, and you get that third act that you were talking about, Dean.
Yeah.